The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
Oh, how we are pleased to welcome you back to the Gridiron Fans to yet another edition PA High School Football Report podcast. We are powered by PennLive, of course. More directly, the wizard behind the curtain. That is our tech Merlin and producer, Megan Wheaton. And, of course, sponsored by UPMC. All right, guys, back at it. Eric Epler alongside colleagues Evan Wheaton and Brian Linder is joining us at the witching hour, chiming in. We're welcome to you guys, sir. Evan, tell them, say hello.
Hello, hello.
And our guy, Brian.
What's up, everybody?
Beautiful omelet in tow. What's in that omelet you're eating?
Yeah, tell us.
A little bit of cheese.
Just cheese.
Yeah, ham and cheese. The wife makes good omelets, man.
I love my omelets, man. I load mine up with spinach and tomatoes. I'm an omelet freak.
There you go. I like little spinach in
I'm gonna have Evan come over and cook omelets one day.
I'll do it. I'll cook omelets for the entire PennLive office. I'll do it too.
Don't let a lot of people tell you that. You'll be in there cooking. You'll be the food truck guy next time.
That'll be it. I'll be it.
All right, let's kickstart the report off. Obviously, as we inch closer to the official start of the 2024 football season, and for us, of course, that is reason we're here, and we'll get into that in just a bit. This is kind of going to be 30 minutes, I think, of nuggets, mostly football, because that's what we do here. But because we do blanket all things Mid-Penn Conference, let's start off with a few hardball nuggets just real quick before we get into the gridiron stuff. The annual Major League Baseball draft is concluded. And over 3 days, Sunday through Tuesday, the 16th, more than 600 players were selected. A handful of local guys, former football players, we should call them for their sports, got drafted, which is a huge deal for these guys, whether or not they're going to pursue it and sign and start their professional career or maybe choose the college path. And for some to go back and continue their college careers. But getting drafted by a professional franchise obviously is a dream. And we wanted to say congratulations to a couple of those guys. So quick congrats to these guys. Wrote about former Palmyra infielder. He was a PennLive All-Star too back in 21, Gage Miller. Miller routed through the JUCO ranks and had a terrific 23 season with Alabama as their third baseman. The Miami Marlins picked him in the third round. So he's going to get a nice fat contract signing bonus. A couple other guys, Northern York grad, right-hander pitcher Tommy Molsky, pitched at Oklahoma State this year. Was a 12th round pick by the Kansas City Royals. Congrats to him. And later on in the draft, the Marlins grabbed Central Dolphins senior Nate Payne. The Rams left-hander and slugger signed to George Mason. So he'll have a decision to make whether or not he goes college route or starts his pro career. So interestingly enough, guys, just one University of New Orleans player, and that was right-hander Nathan Blasek, was drafted. And although it's not the Mid-Penn, Blasek was a two-time Tri-Valley League Player of the Year at, anyone? Halifax, right up the hill. So congrats to Nathan on that as well. All right, so let's hit some other big-time talents too. Obviously, Mechanicsburg's Jeff Luigi. Evan, you got to see Jeff play a couple of times. And Gettysburg hurler Tegan Coons went undrafted, but we sort of expected that for Luigi, obviously, because he's so hell-bent on going to Duke, and he's the kind of player, obviously, could step right into that lineup possibly. So talk a little bit about Luigi.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of caught a bit of the tail end of that postseason run that they had, and, Luigi, big storyline with him this season was resetting that single-season strikeout record for Mechanicsburg, helping that group become the first in school history to repeat as District 3 5A champs. It was a bit of a special ride for them. So, I mean, it was a cool postseason to kind of follow along. And Jeff Luigi, no doubt that he's, heading where he's heading, whether it's, hellbound going to Duke, like you said, but to be selected is obviously a pretty cool dream come true.
Yeah, and Coons, obviously a fireballer right-hander for Gettysburg High. He is going to the University of Tennessee. So those guys will be just fine. And of course, not drafted, but yeah, Luigi was our player of the year this year for Mechanicsburg. So good luck to those guys as they head off to college and do their thing. So congrats to all those Mid-Penn guys. Some drafted, some moving on to college, and we'll see about Nate. Nate has an interesting choice to make now, being an 18th round pick. So we'll see about that, and we'll keep everybody abreast of that situation on PennLive. Okay, speaking of Mid-Penn super studs, Evan, let's revert back to football. Brian obviously wanted to ask you guys about your recent interaction with perhaps the best conference alum ever. He's certainly in the conversation. Dallas Cowboys star and linebacker Micah Parsons was back in the Berg, running a camp at Harrisburg High. This is third season he's done this. Evan, I think
second.
It's second.
Yep.
Yes. Tell us about your day with Micah.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the greatest to ever do it right here in Harrisburg. So this is the second year that he's run this Micah Parsons Lions Den football camp and charity carnival. I guess there were according to camp organizers, there were 350 kids who had registered. That's, compared to last year, it was about 200. But again, it's all free to the Harrisburg community. Micah was talking a lot about never forgetting where he came from and coming back to his roots and trying to be, as he described it, a signal of hope for kids in the area and bringing community together. It was at ages 6 to 16. There was a lot of activities. There were some competitive stations too, but obviously a lot of like fundamental stuff. A lot of local leaders like Lance Dean was there, Central Dolphin East coach and Micah's personal trainer. It was a fun day. There were a lot of Harrisburg kids out there too, helping out with stuff. So Sean Lee Jr., I saw Elias Koch, Messiah Mickens, who I talked to a little bit about for a story on PennLive right now. He was talking a bit about, with him transferring to Harrisburg and helping to try and take a part in the community before he even takes a snap in a Cougars uniform, seeing a guy like Micah who, went to Harrisburg, went to Penn State where Mickens is going. And, look at what Micah's doing now. He's about to be one of, if not the most highest paid defensive player in the NFL on a contract year here. So, talking about like meeting in the minds there and being able to kind of see that the sky's the limit. And of course, there were some fun food trucks there and, some carnival-esque stuff. So it was just an awesome day of community and, free for the community. And it was kind of Micah's way of giving back. And, it looks like it's going to be an annual thing now that's 2 in the book. So already looking forward to next year.
Brian, you've had so much, interaction with Micah too. So if you could,
Well, I was
but
texting him before the camp, and we mic'd him up. Which, if you guys get a chance, go check out TJ Smith's video on PennLive.com. He let us mic him up for the camp, and I think one of the things that sticks out to me. Well, first of all, he did a camp the day before this in State College. And he's done them all over the world. He's had the same camp in Tokyo this year.
yeah.
And if you look at how much he charges for those camps, because you can't do camps for free. You don't travel the world doing camps for free. It's part of his all-season income. At 350 kids, he did that for free in Harrisburg. According to what he charges for the other camps, that would have been about $52,000 that he basically gave away. And more than that, because I'm pretty sure he might have carried a whole bunch of kids to Hershey Park from what I saw after the camp, or some theme park they were at riding roller coasters. And I think a lot of the food is taken care of, right, Evan?
Yeah, all the food was all taken care of. So, that's on top of what registration fees would normally be for these camps.
So, this is probably, you might be getting into $70,000 or $80,000, and this is just spitballing, but I did the math on what he charged for the camp. So that's first of all. But then when we mic him up, you watch it. This is a lot of times guys put their name on a camp and they show up, and they kind of stand off to the side and they might take some photos at the end of the camp. Micah's out there running around playing with the kids, and he's done that. He did that last year, throwing the football with them, being very interactive. I would say it's more of a fun camp probably they do have instructional, but I think
Yeah.
it's more fun camp, especially for the younger kids where he just interacts with the community. So I think always from the beginning, there's been a lot of people saying a lot of things about Micah Parsons that are off base. Micah likes the camera, he likes to talk, and there's some guys who like that or like that, and it works for them. And unfortunately, there were some people I think throughout the years who, for some reason, they didn't like that about it. But the true Micah Parsons is this guy I think you see here who's coming back to the community. He's putting all this money in basically out of his pocket to have this day for these kids. And Evan, I mean, you guys know, I feel like we've harped on this with Philadelphia, um, how brutal and dangerous the community of Philadelphia. It's been a rough summer, spring and summer in Harrisburg. We've had to unfortunately report a lot of shootings and some deaths. And this was a great positive story and day for the city. I saw what did Micah tell you? What was his reason for doing this for the kids?
Well, in his own words, again, he basically said he wanted this to be kind of like a signal of hope, and that, he hopes kids that take out of this is that, community fibers maybe strengthening and having perhaps football being a vessel for that, everyone kind of bonding over this common thing and having it be a good thing. That was kind of what Mike was talking about, but I was speaking with a number of parents out there as well. And, a couple moms saying like, Harrisburg's changing and that we are not, Harrisburg is not what you see in the headlines coming out over the summer and stuff that's been going on in recent news. And I think, Monday kind of showed that, they said like Harrisburg is changing. They're not what, the headlines are. And, to have something like this that's so powerfully good, I think it came at a right time. And it's good. It's something positive. It's a nice thing. And for Micah to come back and not a big other thing too is that he's not too big for his britches, right? He's very much about repping the 717, coming back and giving back to the place that built him up. He talked a lot about this, not just being a homecoming, but, being where he always comes back to, it's not just a one-off thing. So, just about building up that community that will always be in his heart forever.
And now you notice, I always think about when I was in elementary school through the 90s. My high school, Walterboro High School, was a powerhouse in South Carolina. We went to the 93 state championship, I want to say, and we won the 97 state 4A state championship. Beat Albert Haynesworth and Hartsfield, Red Foxes, the Walterboro Bulldogs. But I always think about when I was in elementary school in the 90s when we were really good, Coach Riley sent a couple of the varsity players to our recesses and they signed autographs. And I never forgot that. It was cool to me.
Yeah.
And those guys, that was Brian Davis, our quarterback, who couldn't throw the ball. He only ran. And that was the coolest thing in the world to me. And I think about what these kids are going to remember this with Micah Parsons for the rest of their life.
Yeah. This is, I mean, whether you like him, whether you like the Cowboys or not, or this and that. I mean, what I really like about Micah is, I think most people too, you tend to forget when you become a superstar. I think people forget this about Micah is he's still such a young dude. He's still such a young guy. And the maturation process of Micah Parsons, and I'm not sure I've seen anybody do it as well when there was maybe some question marks, about his character and this and that. In the last 5 years, how that guy has grown into being, an NFL superstar from, his first couple of downs at Penn State is unbelievable. It really is. I mean, and we've got we've sort of had a front row seat because he's been really good with us. And then not just us, he's been great for all local media. But, and we haven't always written glowing things about him. I mean, he didn't have the easiest sort of transition from high school to college. But now he's this sort of, I would say he's almost a global superstar now, being as one of the best defensive guys in the NFL. And honestly, I think if he could throw 10 to 12 of these camps locally for no cost to anybody, I think he would if he had the time. That's how much he appreciates the people who helped him along the way. And man, there were times that I think a lot of people thought that he wouldn't get to this point, but just his trajectory has just went straight north. And it's not just as a football player, as a family man, as a son, and it's all these things. So, and he tries to just every time he's in interviews. I mean, I haven't heard a single athlete from the Harrisburg area mention Harrisburg as much as he has. Whether he's talking to media in Dallas, whether he's talking on his podcast, or wherever he is, and that says a lot. That elevates the city. It really does. And he's consistently championed everybody along the way that's been on his journey, which is obviously just beginning, really, in pro ball. But once you reach that level, and you know this, Brian, you've dealt with enough pro athletes, and Evan, you've dealt with pro athletes too, and just athletes, not superstars. It's easy to lose that connection. It really is easy, and he it seems like he will never lose that connection, and it'll only make it stronger. So that to me is the most impressive part, beyond obviously being abundantly talented on the football field and just ferocious. And I like too, Evan, something you said. He doesn't really take himself too serious. And you know what? At a young age like he is, he shouldn't. He should really. So I appreciate that about him. Even more so than him trucking everybody on the
captain. I get accused of being a homer for him a lot, and in some ways I kind of am. But because I saw, and Eric, you remember this when he was in high school. We used to get everybody. I would get 4 or 5 emails a day. Why do you write about him so much? Well, he was a generational, once in a lifetime player, and oh, he's not going to make it and whatever. And look, we used to have comments on PennLive that people would just be killing him. And I know his dad and him read them, because occasionally his dad would respond, and I don't blame him. But again, he gets a bum rap, and I say this because look, as journalists, we never ask anybody for anything. One of the other things I go back to is, when I was dying, literally didn't know if I was going to live or die, laying in a bed in Baltimore, 70 days in Baltimore, high pop, high chop, high pop, at Johns Hopkins Kimmel Cancer Center, having my bone marrow transplant. My phone started going crazy one day, and I looked up, and Micah Parsons, out of the blue, had found my GoFundMe and shared it and said, "Look, this is a really good dude. If you can help him, please do." And I didn't ask for that. I hadn't talked to Micah in probably 3 or 4 months at that point because I was sick and out of it. But that's his character. There's a certain loyalty to him when he comes back to the city, when he comes back to his hometown. And, look, it's a smart loyalty. I talked to Jakari Lomax, who was Olympic. He went to the Olympic trials from Harrisburg recently. And he talked about how, you can have friends, but you can't necessarily be friends with them in the same way if they're going down the wrong road. Well, you see, Micah definitely knows some of these guys in Harrisburg who've gotten locked up and stuff.
Yeah.
But and I guarantee you Micah still has love for him, but you don't see Micah in those situations, right? So he's smart. There's a loyalty about him that's special. There's a really character quality about him that I think sometimes people overlook because he is so much in the media. He's
right.
God, Eric, this guy is the head of Bleacher Report's football content drive now. Ike, you might be the next Michael Strahan.
I mean, he's just he really is everywhere, and he could be everywhere if he really. I mean, like I said, and I just think, but because of that, him giving back as a camp. I mean, people say, oh, it's a 3-hour. You're just like, come on. I mean, and I think we've been lucky, to be honest with you. I really think we've been lucky with former prep guys, studs who have kind of reached the pinnacle of their sport. And it's, and obviously back in the day too, it started then, but we're lucky where these guys come back and do these things for the area youths because, back then you had the police athletic, you had a lot of things for these young guys to do. And there's not a lot of those programs left. There really isn't. They're being budgeted out and things like that. So the more we can have these camps the better. And we have Micah, obviously, Jordan Hill, the former Penn State guy, NFL, 5-year NFL guy, just had his charity golf tournament the same week. Another Cougar you mentioned, Brian, last week we talked about Robert Tate. He conducted a camp.
He had 60 kids out there for free.
Yeah.
Harrisburg. Andre White Jr. was one of the coaches.
Yep.
Played at Texas A&M, Georgia Tech. Just had a camp invite with the Giants, and is a great young man, good friend of Micah's, I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And big shout out to Robert. You know what, Eric? Robert Tate is a great guy. I mean, he's had a great NFL career, and he still does a lot of stuff for these kids. And because he's not as big a name as Michael right now in the world of sports, he probably doesn't get the love that he deserves. But big ups on him. And Carla Hill with Blessed to Give, I know, works with these guys. I think they put Robert camp together just like on 5 days, and had 60 kids out there in Harrisburg. And again, I can't stress enough, people don't realize how big that is for these kids in this city. You talk to any number of these athletes, Shakari Lomax talked about it, and you hate to harp on this stuff about how it can be a struggle to get out of Harrisburg. I mean, this kid just talked about himself. Mike has talked about it. There's a lot of pitfalls you can fall into, but there's also a really beautiful swath of that community, and they need young leaders, and here Micah's one of them. And he's the number one. He's a hero in our community.
That was kind of the, right there, you said it right there, Brian. That was kind of the basis of Micah saying, and I quote, like, we want this to be a beacon of hope. And just to peel the curtain back a little further, Lance had said Micah Parsons uses his platform to uplift Harrisburg and to paint Harrisburg in that good light and show that anything's possible. Whether it's ESPN or NFL Network, he uses his platform to talk about home. He's very 717 oriented. Him taking the time after camp activities to meet with Messiah Mickens, who's kind of going down that Harrisburg Penn State path, to take the time to meet him and talk with him and get pictures with him. That's something that Messiah Mickens, rising junior in high school, he's a high school kid. A lot of people, see what he can do on the field and the national rankings, all that. But, Messiah's a high school kid, and who's going to remember that moment for the rest of his life. And that's the kind of stuff that Micah has emphasized doing.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
Yeah, it's been really good, and you see it in other sports too. I mean, there's a lot of baseball, ex-baseball pro guys spent a long time in the minor leagues. They're back in the area. They're teaching or they're running a business. The list is endless, really. The guy we want to mention too is, years ago, I'm not sure if Danny Lansana still has his camp, but I went to a couple years in a row and for his deal, and I mean there were 10 or 11 pro guys, current active NFL guys, that flew in from all over the country to do his camp. And it was amazing. You're talking to like guys who are, all pro guys who are standing there next to you, to do this 1-day camp that Danny Lansana, who's obviously he had a NFL career, long time in the NFL, area coach, he's sort of done it all. So yeah, there's a boatload of guys that do this, and it's great for our area. And shout out to them for putting in the time and doing it, because as you know, there's a lot of other things they could be doing just for themselves.
To tell you how small a world it is, Eric, some of those guys he would bring in for the camp included
Levante David, yeah,
Daquan Bowers, who played with him with the Bucks,
yeah,
and Ricky Sapp, who was a high school teammate of Daquan's. They were the Bamberg Bookends.
Yep,
covered them in high school. I actually was at both of their draft parties. I was there when Andy Reid called Ricky Sapp on the phone. So it's a small world, and then years later, I stood in the hallway and talked to Danny about Daquan and those guys. Daquan was a great high school player, but small world. Anyway, it was a great weekend, and again, a lot of love to Robert Tate too, because he did,
Yep.
the weekend before he had a really for that weekend he had a really great camp too. So big
Yep.
things happening in Harrisburg. But I know we had some other stuff you guys wanted to talk about too.
Yeah, let's look a little bit. We our colleague, of course, our buddy Tom DiMartini, who I think is actually raking chips at the Hard Rock Casino and Resort in Atlantic City right now. He always seems to get hot at the blackjack table, so he's out there. But he did put together sort of a snapshot of week one, what to expect, and as you know, we've reported and we've already had the schedules out there on Penn Live. It's sort of a new look for the Mid-Penn Conference in 2024. The powers that be sort of sacked the 5 divisions that we had for the past 4 years, meaning we said goodbye now to the Liberty division. We stuffed everybody back into 4 divisions. So basically, what that means is, we've got 10 teams in the 2 biggest class divisions, which is Commonwealth Keystone. We've got 9 teams in the Capital and Colonial. So some of these rivalry games that you might get maybe in week 3 because you had the extra non-con or non-division sets, you only were played 7 division games. Now you basically got 1 week in the Commonwealth and Keystone, 1 non-division game, and of course you get 2 weeks. So some of these rivalry games got shifted around. Some of these non-divisions are right up front in week 1. So week 1's going to be really, really frantic. And there's a bunch of what we would call either rivalry games or really good matchups that we really want to see, like we're really interested in. So I thought what we would do is, if you, Evan, maybe Brian, pick 1 or 2 of that opening week, and then we could discuss it and why you sort of are interested in that game, and what most you looking forward to. Maybe it's out of the player, or maybe it's out of the actual team who's maybe transitioning a little bit, or some guys stepping up and coming through the ranks as sort of a breakout. So, Evan, I'm going to start with you. Pick a game that you're really looking forward to, and we'll go from there.
So first one that I'm kind of looking forward to is the Cocoa Bean Bowl.
Yeah.
I remember, I remember, seeing like, I think it was Dan at that game last year, and I was like, oh, like the Cocoa Bean Bowl, that sounds so cool. But I mean, obviously there's it's the annual matchup, rich tradition behind it. Hershey went on a bit of a run last year too. But the first story I wrote for Penn Live was about Angel Cabrera, and obviously I'm pretty curious to see what Hershey's going to do without him, him graduating and everything, running back. So I think that's going to be a fun one, one that I'm pretty curious about. Another one that I'm really have on the radar is LaSalle College at Harrisburg. Mostly, I'm just eager to see this Harrisburg roster in action, regardless of who they're facing. I want to see that backfield, going back on, Messiah Mickens and Deontay Sheffy, both 4-star running backs. And then you have Nehemiah Ewell, who ran for, only 1,200 yards last year. That's a crazy backfield behind a stacked O-line with Kevin Brown. And then, of course, you have Elias Koch, who can take the top off the defense if they get that run game established and start finding him. So I'm chomping at the bit to try and get out to Harrisburg games and see that roster in action. Obviously, LaSalle College is a program that, not too long ago, they were getting 8-9 wins a season. And they're going to be pretty eager to try and steer the ship to those waters again at a very promising Harrisburg group. So then a third one that I'm kind of looking at is just staying on the beat of the Commonwealth Division. Obviously, Mount St. Joseph versus Bishop McDevitt. I'm just excited about the whole storyline with Stone Saunders, breathing down the back of those passing records that Alex Irby had set last year. And, I get excited anytime there's out-of-state opponents coming in, because those are teams you don't really see too often, and Mount St. Joseph is a very good program in Maryland. They've done very good for themselves. So coming here, getting a test against a solid Crusader squad, those are kind of my ones that I'm sort of looking at here.
Yeah, the Cocoa Bean Bowl is obviously tradition rich. I think, don't quote me, I think it's like in the early 40s it started, 43. I write for a living. I don't do math. So this would make that, 80, 81 or 82, 82nd version of something like that. what's nice about that one too is it really is a community rivalry. But obviously, it's a friendly, more of a friendly rivalry. There's, the former alumni comes back and the tailgating situation. They have a huge team breakfast the morning, I think the morning before, maybe, or maybe the morning during. Yeah, maybe that's Saturday. But yeah, last year obviously the Spartans got Cabrera pretty bad in that one. I think Cabrera went for 250 plus in that game. But the wins and losses are very close. So it's been a good back and forth rivalry there for them. And for your other points for LaSalle and Harrisburg, and obviously McDevitt and Mount St. Joseph, yeah, you're spot on there. I think it'll be interesting. More interesting to me is the LaSalle game because I think the Explorers are going to be pretty decent. So it'll be a good test for Harrisburg right up the jump.
And their quarterback's headed to Rutgers, Kevin Sidwar.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they've got some big guys back too. So I think it's going to be a good season for them. A return to glory too. I went with a couple off maybe a little offline ones. Obviously the Little Brown Jug game. First, mainly just because it is a heated rivalry. Shippensburg and Big Spring. Big Spring got them last year. I think it was 21-7.
I knew you were going to pick the Little Brown Jug game.
Well, here's the main, the main reason. First of all,
loves anytime they give any kind of like jugs or
yes, I love. Listen, it is the ugliest jug in history. It's so ugly, it's cool. You know how you get that? You know when you get those, you see a uniform, you're like, oh my god, they are so ugly. They're actually cool. That's what the Little Brown Jug is. It is awful. It's just awful, and I think it might be actually the second version of it. I think somewhere along the line it might have got smashed, which adds to the rivalry even more. So
it's not ugly. Someone's coming after it.
If you give away a jug at the end of your game, Eric's going to try to come to it.
I'm going to try to get there. Absolutely, no question. For me too, obviously another big 6A matchup. Manheim Township and Cumberland Valley. These two met twice last year, and we know obviously Manheim got them at home in the playoffs and the district playoffs on a whale of a ball game. Both teams are going to be really new look. I mean, Hayden Johnson's gone. He's off to college. Landon Canella's gone for the Streaks. For Cumberland Valley, you got some nice pieces back, but you're losing that horse and Bryce Sterritz, big time running back for them last year, and a couple other key guys. So Sauve obviously in the middle. So it'll be interesting to see what those two sort of retooled franchises look like in week one, because week one is always difficult to kind of gauge where these guys are going to be in week 10, just because it's the first action of the season. So really big test for both squads. Lastly, it's Trinity at Allentown Central Catholic is big for me. Obviously, you mentioned Messiah Mickens transferred to Harrisburg. That takes a monstrous amount of offense away from Trinity. And this is really part of the upscale scheduling that Jordan Hill started. Trinity has a new head coach, of course, now. And ACC is one of these teams, and I believe ACC has dropped to 3A, which is significant because if the Mid-Penn Commonwealth is not considered the most brutal division in the state, it would be the other one that ACC plays in. I mean, ACC, if they are, in fact, 3A, I have to double check on that. But you're looking at Freedom, you're looking at Liberty, all big 6A schools, Emmaus, and this team. So, they get into the playoffs. They are battle tested, ACC. So, and they always bring a good product to the table as a District 11, challenger. So that's going to be a really, really hard match for Trinity in week one.
I think one that's interesting too is you mentioned the Mid-Penn Commonwealth and how tough it's shaping up to be. Central Dauphin going to Central York. They've lost 2 years in a row to them. Central Dauphin has lost to Central York, but Jules Gross gone. He kind of really did a lot of damage in the last couple of years. Central Dauphin just a couple of years ago was in the state title game, as you know, and probably has not, the last 3 or 4 years been as consistent as that program had been maybe in a decade before.
Right.
And so, and look, they had some good players last year, Mateo Crummel and, guys like that who made some big plays for him, and they're gone now. Jet France is gone on defense, and so we don't, they lost what, Lyman to Maryland,
Yeah.
Anthony Robstock to Maryland, and another one, Evan Bushong to James Madison, I believe.
Yeah.
So they've lost some really good players, and they're coming into what looks like it's going to be a really tough year for the Commonwealth, which it always has been, but even tougher, more so. I don't know that any of us really know what to expect from Central Dauphin, and Central York's had some turnover too. It'll be very interesting to see that first game, see what the Rams have, see if they're going to be any kind of a player this year in this Commonwealth division.
Kind of circling back to your pick, your second pick there at Cumberland Valley, Manheim Township. I think that's a great pick. I talked a lot about it last year, but I'll say it again now. Like, I thought Cumberland Valley was one of the most exciting teams last year. To start 1-4, have everyone and their mother writing them off, and then not letting the wheels fall off the cart, flipping it around, winning out, going to the playoffs. Being matched up against Manheim Township and kind of taking it to them a little bit there, giving them a little bit of a gut check, obviously lost some pieces with Hayden Johnson, but to see them go at it again the way that last year ended, I think that's a very exciting one to look forward to.
Yeah, and CV's schedule doesn't get any less brutal. I mean, that was part of the problem last year. They were still tinkering with who they're going to put under center, after the first month of the season. And then really things changed when they hiked up their britches and say, hey, listen, we can hang with these guys and we can play with these guys and be better than them and win ball games. And then the other thing was Grant Shepley, going under center. It stabilized that position for them. That kid went 4-1 or 5-1 down the stretch. The only loss, of course, being the district loss to Manheim Township. So that stabilized things for them, and they could focus more on getting the ball to Bryce Derritts, and their defense sort of, made plays. There were still some chinks in the armor, but they started making plays and started being opportunistic on defense, and all those things helped them kind of gather themselves midseason and take off and really have a legit chance to beat Township. And I think, well, they had several chances to beat Township, really. So that's a sort of a circle game for them since last year ended. And obviously it's a few other circle games we talked about. So we get some rivalries a little bit earlier, not tremendously earlier. I think the Cocoa Bean Bowl is typically like week 3, week 4, or it has been. The Little Brown Jug game last year, I think, was in week 2. So, so there's some rivalry games pushed up a little bit, but it'll be interesting because obviously the first week everybody's playing non-division, with the exception of some of the Commonwealth and Keystone teams. So, yeah, it'll be a fun first week. There's a lot of games on the schedule first week, and of course you got the what do you call it? White Rose Open Classic where McDevitt. No, what is that called? The festival at York Suburban High School.
Yeah.
The Rose Bowl Classic, I think.
Rose Bowl Classic. There you go. I couldn't think of the actual term, but yeah. And Susquehanna Township's involved in that. They play host York Suburban in that one. So there's a lot going on in week 1, and we'll be following it all.
I'm just who was it? Imhotep beat like 100-0 in that. Like, are they bringing life? It was.
I think it was Bishop Sycamore. Was it Bishop Sycamore?
No, it was Life Christian.
Bishop Sycamore.
Right. Let's see. Life Christian.
Yeah,
They beat them 87-0.
That's
Life Christian went 1-8. They beat some school called NCA 32-13.
there you go.
National Christian Academy.
It's always a silver lining, Brian.
And that school was 5-8. So who did they beat? Because I got to tell you, that was one of the worst teams in the history. So,
all right, before we get out of here, Brian, we got a couple tidbits to talk about in the western half of the state.
Yeah, Western PA's got some movement, man. About this Jaden Peel kid from Western Beaver, threw for almost 3,000 yards last year, 33 touchdowns, and guess what? Not from Western Beaver anymore.
Nope.
Or not reports, and from what I can tell on Twitter, via Twitter account, he is now a Pittsburgh Central Catholic quarterback. That's big news for the football landscape. He's a talented kid.
Yeah, there'll be some grumblings out there for sure about that. The Whitby will chime in, I'm sure. But again, it's public-private, so
Central Catholic Central Catholic has fooled me the last couple of years. I really thought the last couple of years they had a really good quarterback, Peyton. I'm pretty sure I'm going to say his name wrong, Wayner.
Waiter, yeah.
He was. I love that kid. I think he had a major knee injury as like a freshman or a sophomore. Came back. He was a really good player. I really thought they were going to be more of a player in the state title kind of scene, and they just didn't get it done. But they always reload, and looks like they might have another good young quarterback coming. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on, and also see how that plays out in terms of PIAA rules. But again, he's just going into sophomore year, so he should be good to go, right? Is that how it works?
I mean, it should be, yeah. I mean, it all depends on, if they sign off, it should not be contested. But again, there's all kind of circumstances that crop up when these things happen, and some just die off and it's fine, and then somebody raises a stink, and then you go from there. So I mean, we'll find out. We'll
I'm
find out.
never sure about the rules because I hate the rules. Let's just roll out the balls and play. So
Yeah, no, I agree.
Linder for president.
and we got another big thing you wrote about some Ep.
Yeah.
Fill us in.
Yeah, Aliquippa, obviously the saga between Aliquippa and the PIAA and their forced promotion to 5A up from 4A. Obviously, they're defending 4A champs through the competition balance or competitive balance rule is still being worked out. Apparently, the PIAA, where we stand now is the PIAA who is appealing the decision, the May 23rd decision in Beaver County by a Beaver County judge to uphold it, to get a temporary injunction to prevent them from playing up in 5A in 2024. The PIAA is asking for a temporary, what they call it, injunction, to lift the injunction until they continue with the appeals process. That was, according to my notes, and on Tuesday, July 16th, that was supposed to be heard. I don't know if it's extended or not. I haven't heard the final decision to see what the Commonwealth Court says, but that's where we're at right now. So it's interesting because I mean, the Whipple, when they were sort of going to take this promotion and move to 5A, obviously they Alquippa appealed the decision and argued their point. The PIAA obviously denied it 2 weeks later in January, and then Alquippa filed a lawsuit to prevent them and sort of to eat away at this competitive balance rule and what it really means to them specifically. And so it's interesting because the Whipple then put together their schedules with Alquippa as a 5A school. And then in May, when the decision came down from Beaver County, they made their schedule with 4A. So now they're still pretty much on hold as to what classification they're going to compete in. So we'll see. It should not take long. It should be within 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, to see what the decision is by the Commonwealth Court. But there may be, and we're a month out. We're a little more than a month out from the start of the season. So whatever they decide, they better do it quick.
I'm team Alquippa on this one. I mean, you're 1A, voluntarily playing up at 4A. You're going to make them move to 5A. A little bit ridiculous. I also saw something where the PIAA, I guess, might be considering a move to where if you win back-to-back state championships, you move up regardless, which would be bad news for Southern Columbia finally. And then the other thing, I guess, with Aliquippa, we mentioned Mike Warfield is taking the year off.
Yeah, he's taking a leave of absence. He submitted a letter to Aliquippa basically saying, and I don't think it's definitely, he mentions in there, it's not health related. There's nothing wrong. He just needs a break. I think with all this, extracurricular, extra outside the actual field, off the field stuff too, has taken a toll on him. Yeah, it's just, it's a pain when, this has been going on since January, that he's really had to worry about this and between the meetings and obviously what you need to discuss with the lawyers and administration. I think it just took a toll on him and he's been at it for 8 years. I think this he just completed his 8th year as head coach. Um, so one of his assistants is going to take over on an interim basis. They promoted another assistant to associate head coach. So it'll be interesting. That's going to be a hell of a squad again. Alquippa's stacked. Obviously, Tyke Hayes is still returning, the running back. Penn State recruit is back, and got a lot of good things going on and with the Quips on the field.
I think like if take anything away from that, it's like with him kind of taking a leave of absence here, not being able to just like focus on football. It's pretty telling how like taxing this probably is for the folks over at Alquippa. And I guess like, I don't give my opinion on things often, but I'll give the opinion that no one asked for. It feels like to me that it's giving me somewhat like Deflategate vibes, and hear me out. Like where it stopped being about the thing in question a long time ago, the whole like plenty football thing. Obviously, Alquippa didn't do that. It's more about the competitive balance, but it stopped being about competitive balance formula and appeal, and it started becoming a lot more about power, like going and fighting against the PIAA trying to assert its, hey, this is what we're doing, and how dare you kind of try and appeal this kind of thing. And now it's being taken to court and the whole mess. And, like Brian said, 1A voluntary playing up to 4A, now being forced up to 5A. And it's just at some point along this insane rocky road, like it stopped being about the thing in question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously both places are dug in really well. And again, the PIAA, asserts its rules, whatever rules they pass, to everybody. Aliquippa argues it's a unique situation. I don't doubt that. But again, how do you make the exception? Aliquippa had, successfully argued on how the PIAA basically counted the amount of transfers, because that's part of this competitive balance rule is if you accept 3 or more transfers, plus make the success factor points, that makes you eligible to move up or that makes you this automatic promotion. So they argued against that too. Obviously, the argument too is health and safety. When you've got, technically a 2A school for this year's enrollment figures, Aliquippa would be 2A, but Aliquippa had long time volunteered to move up from 1A and played 3A for a while, and then obviously advanced after winning in 2020. They moved up. They had the automatic advance to 4A. And of course, they've been really successful in 4A. They won 2 titles in 4 years. So they've got the point system, and I suppose they had the transfers. But, again, I don't know what the final resolution is going to be. I look at situations like this and I'm thinking, why are we talking about this in the middle of July when camp opens up in a month or less than a month? This to me is should have been completed before we even reach the summer, so everybody can get their ducks in a row and prepare and get ready for the first day of heat. That to me is the biggest problem I see, is that we're still dealing with this now.
Whatever the decision is, like you said, it's going to have to be quick because, season's right around the corner. Schedules have to be figured out. Like this has to be figured out yesterday.
Yeah, and I know, and maybe that's part of the strategy too on either end. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know at this point. It's been an ongoing saga since January 7th when or 6th when Alquippa put their appeal in. So yeah, that to me is troublesome. When your administration and when your coaching staff and when your kids are wondering what's going to be a month from now. That's a big problem for me, Brian. I don't know how you see the resolution here, but obviously I think I know your stance, but I'll let you.
Pro quips. Much love to Bob Lombardi, but I wouldn't stop for lunch in Aliquippa anytime soon because they're serious about their football, and you might want to have like a food taster or something until this case gets worked out.
Yeah.
Just watching the smoke from afar, watching the fires burn. That's my stance.
51 minutes, guys. Epler.
Yep.
I think we got a podcast, but I will tell you this.
Yeah.
I bought the college football game.
Oh, yeah.
But I bought the cheap one. I spent $60 on it.
There's
and
a
you can
cheap one and an expensive one?
Oh, there's an $88 version and a $134 version. And what I didn't know was is really one of the big differences is if you buy the $60 version, you got to wait till Friday to play the game. So I'm sitting here watching everybody else play the game, and I'm not happy.
I haven't played it, but I see like it's like apparently like comically hard to hit field goals. Like the cursor moves back and forth.
I saw that, but that was like a 59-yarder. I saw that on Twitter.
Okay.
That's realistic though, because like I feel like I sit here on Saturday with 5 TVs going and just watch college kickers shank them all over the field. So
all I know is this: is every tweet that I've seen. I'm not going to say everyone, but 95% of the tweets that I've seen with somebody showing their play, and this and that. Iowa State's been involved in every one. Like if you're playing Iowa State, if you waited this long to get the game and you're playing Iowa State, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I'm going to be unproductive Friday. I just look on principle.
I love the play clones.
I pre-ordered. I was going to get to play early, and I wasn't really paying attention. But on principle, I really don't want to pay $90 or $140 for a video game. But I would have paid it had I known this. This has been a disaster for me. It's been emotionally crippling to sit here and watch everybody play. But I'm coming Friday. I'm bringing the pain. I don't know who I'm going to play with, but I'm coming.
Listen, I'm just saying this. When I plug into my beautiful Atari 2600 system, I put a cartridge in, I play right away. I don't have to wait for anything. So that's first thing. Second thing is, because you didn't spend $140 or whatever it was, Dan's going to call you not a true gamer now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And rightly so, I think. Rightly so.
I know. I have a retro game system. I have 45,000 games in here. Okay. So whatever, Dan. Reagan, I was playing Bart Simpson versus Space Aliens last night because I saw some guy on TikTok doing it. He was cruising through it, and I can't get halfway through the first stage. I want to throw my controller through the wall. It's frustrating. I usually only play sports games for this reason. Football, I'm good with that. But he's creeping around in the dark games and shooting at each other. I don't like creeping around for an hour and then somebody shoots you in the back of the head. So it's 30 seconds. It's some 12-year-old who's always like mad trash. His mom's calling him to eat his ham sandwich or whatever, in the background. But anyway,
cheese omelet.
On X, formerly Twitter. Find me there. Give me your gamer tags, high school players. I will come and beat you badly and then talk about it on the podcast if you drop your gamer tags to me. Well, I'm going to play with my guy Darrington Evans, NFL running back, Buffalo Bills, on Friday. I think.
There you go.
He hit me up today and said, let's play.
Squad. All right, we're going to drop the curtain on this episode. Guys, thanks, Evan. I appreciate your time. Brian, as always.
Tell them how to find you, Evan. You need Twitter followers.
Evan Wheaton on Twitter.
I am at 3Jacker.
And check out at PennLive.com. We got a ton of stuff on the website and a ton of stuff coming. New sports editor Austin Herzog. Shout out to you. It's going to be a little bit less. You know what? You guys got a lot of stress coming,
Yeah.
Because it's you guys got to put out about 50. I sent Austin probably about 100 preseason content by launch you, and he's probably going to put another 50 in there. You got about 150 things you got to get out in the next month. And you know what I got to do? I got to go find some good trending stories and what restaurants and businesses open up.
It's about to get real.
Not to worry.
And an epilogue from your producer. Next week's episode will be live from PennLive Media Day.
That is correct. Media Day. Absolutely.
Next week, PennLive Media Day, March 24th, Hamlet Valley.
July 24th.
We may have some real gaming going on.
3 hours sleep is what that is.
I'll let that go. Let that marinate.
you come. If you're in the media and you want to come, you haven't got an invite, hit us up. You can come. And coaches, better make sure your kids are signed up and come out. Be a big day.
And there won't be omelets, but there will be free pizza.
That's right.
We should make Evan have an omelet station.
We should.
I'll do it.
I'll bet his omelet pan is glorious.
I'll do it.
Evan's Omelets.
Hey,
The food truck coming.
Put the word out.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
see it.
Yeah.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.